This video will teach you everything you need to know about writing and sending cold emails en masse, so you can scale your business and take it to the next level. We're going to create a set and forget mass outreach tool that will serve as an asset for your business and free up your time to focus on other things. I think as business owners, we quite often forget just how valuable our time is. Getting more leads means getting to a place where you've got more people wanting to work with you than you've got capacity to deliver for. And as a result, you get to pick the clients you want to work with, aka the ones with larger budgets, and you get to charge more money for your services as a result. Yet businesses of all sizes are failing to implement systems that effectively generate opportunities, meaning they're reliant on referrals and the whims of the market, and essentially spreading themselves too thin just to keep afloat. In this video, we're going to talk through the most effective ways to collect data for people who you want to reach out to, the email copy and sequencing tools that actually get a response, and I'm going to run through some core cold email principles that we should keep in mind as we're creating our different campaigns. Now, I've tried to make this video as short as possible whilst including all of the key and core information that I think you need. But obviously, if you just want to skip ahead to certain sections, I've added bookmarks below, so feel free. If we haven't met, I'm Dec. I've generated over $10 million in revenue from outbound messaging sequences and cold emails that I've sent whilst working at Salesforce Marketing Cloud and at IBM. And I'm currently building different AI-powered marketing solutions for different clients I'm working with at my own agency, Belgrave AI. I'm also offering free AI audits that will help businesses take the next step on their journey to AI when I've got capacity. More info link below. I've also worked on AI Martech consulting projects at Google, OpenAI and Zoom at one of the UK's leading startups. Now, before we talk through some of the best ways to find our data, for us to send our emails to, and the best tools to actually send the messages, I think it's important for us just to remind ourselves where outbound emails and messaging sits within our wider lead generation strategy. When you peel it all back, there's only actually 4 different types of outreach. We've obviously got warm outreach, which is where you reach out to people already in your network who already know you, that you've got some type of reputation with already. Then, of course, there's cold outreach. That's where our email sequences fit in. But then there's also Instagram DMs or LinkedIn DMs or writing letters or anything along those lines. Then you've got posting free content, be it on YouTube, like what this is, or on LinkedIn, or written blog articles, or publishing. You've got all of that, which we call free content. And then, of course, there's paid ads. So that's any type of advertising that you run. So out of all of those different categories, my experience is that warm outreach is always the most effective. You've already got a reputation and a sense of trust with the people that you're speaking with. And hopefully people think you're good at what you're doing. The downside to this, of course, is especially if you're maybe trying something new or breaking into a new area, you've got an existing reputation with these people and you don't want to burn it by maybe trying or sharing something which maybe doesn't work, or you're in that experimental phase. So I get it, it's not always the right one to go with, but in terms of the best bang for your buck or the most effective, I think warm outreach is always the best. Now, before we get to the outbound email bit, I also just want to share my point of view on what I see as the most effective lead generation methods at the moment. The first one I think is best described as hustle. But what I mean by that is when you use your time to reach out directly to people who might be interested in doing business with you and getting them to signal some kind of interest. There's also joint ventures. That's finding people or other organizations who have had a relationship with your perfect clients and finding a way to partner with them. An example I heard about recently in a different industry to mine was there was a restaurant here that had this really nice, quite high-end restaurant that was trying to get more people to attend their restaurant. So what they did is they actually partnered with a law firm. Law firm obviously is not in any shape or form a competitor of this high-end restaurant. And what the restaurant did is they said, well, can you send a letter out to everyone in your database and say you've got a free bottle of wine at my restaurant just for being our customer? That way the law firm looks really good. They're giving out something of value to their customers. And in return, the restaurant gets lots of people coming in and ordering a bottle of wine. Of course, if a couple or a group of people come in and order a bottle of wine, they typically don't stop there. They order other items and things. And so whilst that perceived value is really high for the person coming in, because maybe that bottle of wine costs, I don't know, 40 or 50 pounds or dollars, the cost of the restaurant is maybe about 10 to 15. And for that cost, they're actually getting people in who are then filling a table. Next one, of course, is advertising. If I'm completely honest, I haven't done a lot with advertising. I've run a few campaigns to test different names and titles and things like that in the past. But I always think for you to be effective in how you advertise and to run a successful ad campaign, you need to be really comfortable with your offer and also what your margins are, so that you can very quickly and effectively work out your cost of acquisition and make sure that fits within your margins, so that you don't end up burning money. Because from what I've heard and friends and people I know, it's quite easy to burn money with advertising. Next one I want to point out is referrals. Now, I think this is one of the most enjoyable and best ways to grow a business if you can. You've obviously got lots of happy customers who are now referring you and your services to other happy customers. And you just start out your relationship, your business relationship, on that really positive foot, and things typically grow from there. So now let's get on to cold email. Now, a really common mistake that I hear and see, and have definitely made myself in the past when it comes to cold outreach, is underestimating the amount of volume that's required in order to start testing and validating an offer, getting people on a call with you, and ultimately scaling your business. If you're testing a new offer or positioning your pitch, you want to get whatever it is that you're offering or pitching in front of at least 30 people who are in your ideal customer profile or your ideal customer persona before knowing whether your offer works or not. And that's not sending 30 emails, it's actually speaking to and pitching or presenting to 30 people. Now, just doing a little bit of napkin maths, and of course, these are just some, I think, semi-realistic figures, but obviously everything varies depending on everything else that we run and do. I'd say, let's imagine that 40% of the people who reply to the emails that you send go on to speak with you, and we want to test or speak with and pitch to 30 different people in order to really validate our offer. That means we need to get 75 responses to our emails in order to pitch and share with our 30 people. And we could debate all you like around whether 40% of the people that respond actually going on to book a call is a high number or not, but for this argument, let's say that's right and that's good. So we need to get 75 responses. Now let's assume we get a 5% conversion rate. That means we need to send approximately 1,500 emails in order to get our 75 responses and then 30 people going on to book a call. And of course, if our email sequence isn't very good or isn't as high converting or our offer isn't great, our percentage could be much lower than that 5%. All of that to say that at a bare minimum, we probably want to be sending at least 1,500 emails to our target ICP just to get those 30 calls and those 30 presentations. But the numbers could again be much higher or lower, just depending on how efficient we are in what we're putting together and how far along we are. But the best thing to do really is just get out there and do it. So as much as possible, just get out there and start really listening to any feedback, any responses that you get, and just think of it as free consulting. Okay, now let's get into how we find the information on the people who we're reaching out to. We obviously want to have a really good, clear idea of the different job titles and personas that are likely to purchase our offer or solution. I'm going to come back to how we word it and how we appeal to these different people a little bit later, when we're actually constructing our emails. But for now, I think it's just important for us to point out that we need to know a specific type of job title or person or whatever it is. And that trigger point, it could be a job title, but it could also be something else. It could be maybe they've got a Facebook pixel, for example. Now, I know from work I've done in the past, some of the really large enterprise tech organizations like Salesforce, Google, Microsoft, LinkedIn, all these types of places, they're building and they're actually creating agents that crawl the internet and that update their CRM and their customer relationship management software. So they seem to think that about 30% of the data that they have in their databases and their CRMs are made redundant each year because of people either moving jobs or moving on or just not being relevant anymore, which to me is absolutely wild to think that 30% of your database or their databases is changing or not working anymore. I think it's crazy. Okay, so let's move on to how we actually find the people that we want to send our emails to. So for our campaign that we're running, we need to think about a specific segment or type of people that we want to reach out to, otherwise known as our ICP or ideal customer persona or profile. So or we're thinking around exactly who these types of people are. It could be that they've got a specific type of job role or title and they work in a specific type of company. For example, maybe we're reaching out to CMOs at tech companies. So now I'm actually going to show you a more cost-effective way of getting leads en masse. And obviously we already spoke around how it's so important to really think about this in terms of volume when we're sending outbound emails. So really getting cost-effective leads that we can email en masse is a really, really valuable thing for you to do in order to scale your business. In order to do this, we're going to use a combination of a program called Apify and also Apollo. So Apify is a relatively new tool, and what that can do is it gives you lots of different agents or different, they refer to them as scrapers, where it's able to go and search the internet or search the specific thing that you're doing, find some insights, pull that information and create databases for you to then reach out to. So let me start by me showing you Apify. Now, as you can see on the screen here, Apify is, think of it a bit like a store or a platform where different people create different agents or services that serve different functions. So as you can see here, we've got a Google Maps scraper. If you're looking for information from, say, TikTok, Instagram, you can go into all of those. However, the one we're going to use is Apollo. So as I mentioned earlier, Apollo is an outbound emailing platform that has a lot of people in its database. Now, I'm not an expert when it comes to data, but my understanding is Apollo typically pulls its data from LinkedIn and a few other sources. But I mean, if you know any better than I do, put it in the comments. Genuinely really interested to know. But my experience is that the data that comes from Apollo is usually pretty good and fairly reliable. So we're going to use this Apollo scraper here. So I'm going to click in here. And as you can see, what it's doing is it's asking for a URL. Now, we'll come back here and I'll show you it in action in a little bit more detail. But now what we're actually going to do is go over to Apollo. So you need to create an Apollo account. And once you've created your account, you go across here into people. And what we're going to do is search for a specific audience or segment who we want to market to. Now, we want to be as specific as we can and focus on a certain industry and a size or a job role. Something where everyone who we're reaching out to share common characteristics that we can obviously talk to. And just as importantly is we want to make sure that our solution or our offer that we're serving acts as that bridge between their problem state where they are now and what our avatar wants to achieve. We need to make sure that we're positioning our offer and our solution as that bridge that takes them from A to B. So for this example, I've gone through here and on the left, I've made sure that we've got the email status as verified. That means that we know that it's a good email, especially when we're sending lots of emails. We need to make sure that they're good, valid email addresses. If not, they start to bounce and it impacts the reputation that our email addresses have. So I always click that and make sure they're verified. Job titles. So for example, here we're going for CMOs. So that's chief marketing officers. So that's senior marketing type people. And we're going for people that work in retail. And as you can see, it's pulled a list of 1,348. Now I'm in the free plan of Apollo. If you were to pay for it, you're able to go through and see all of these and ultimately access all of these emails. But on the free plan, you're stopped at, I think it's about page 2 or page 3. And I'm not even sure whether you can actually pull any of these emails for free or not. I'm not sure. You might be able to get a few. But what I'm going to show you is more effective. So now we've pulled this here, what I'm going to do is just copy word for word the URL of our search. As you see, every time we play around with these tabs, the URL has changed so that it reflects the exact search that we run. So that's great. So once we've done that and we've got our search, we take our URL and we go across back into... Now I'm using the paid plan. I think it's really cost effective. What it is, it's $39 per month. But if you just want to try this out and see if it works and how it's working for you, the free plan gives you $5. And with that, you're able to scrape up to 100 leads for you to check and play around with. Of course, the reality is, and again, coming back to volume and the importance of volume that we spoke around, 100 just isn't going to cut it. So I think they know that, and they just do the 100 for you to test and validate and see that it works. But ultimately, if you want to just get on and get it done, it's $39. So what you do is in the search URL here, you paste in the search. So this is our search. And we now got to put in the total number of records. I'm going to put 2,000, so we're way above the number that we found in Apollo. And then you quite simply just press save and start. And what this is doing now is it's running the access through. And as you can see down here, I guess you kind of feel like a bit of like a high-end coder or something. Well, I do. I don't know. That's just me being a bit of a geek. But it's very simple. It's literally just going through and it's pulling all of these pages, 100 per page. And as you can see, it's just working through and pulling all of these different CMOs. It'll take a minute. I'll speed it up. But in a second, we'll have all of our answers.
A few moments later.
Okay, so here it is. It's finished. And it's gone through a page by page. Since it's pulled a total of 1,334 records. Once you've done that, it took about 4 minutes for it to complete. You then go through and click on export your results. You got lots of different options. I'm just going to take it as a CSV file. That's obviously an Excel file, and it downloads it. So then if we go into Google Sheets, open up a new sheet and click on import, we can then upload our file and stick it in. So what it does is it goes through and then it will import all of our data. For obviously data protection reasons, I'm actually not going to show you all of the data. I don't know whether I'm allowed to do it or not. I'm guessing I'm probably not on YouTube because it's like me publishing it. As you can see, we've got all of these different C-suite names, we've got their email addresses and all the different contact information. What you can do is you can go through this and just pull out that relevant information that you need and create a new spreadsheet. You can also get ChatGPT to do it. Just give it a basic prompt, something along the lines of, well, you can use my meta prompt link below to create a good one for yourself, but ultimately just tell it to pull out the email address, first name, last name, company name, job title, phone number. So that's Apify and Apollo working together, and you can get some pretty good information and data just by going through and doing that. Again, depending on the niche and the area that you're focusing in, there can be a lot of really rich campaign data that you can pull. And like I say, I mean, if you think that for less than $1 of my $39 a month subscription, I've been able to pull about 1,400 CMOs of large retail, companies. Pretty good value, especially when you've got an offer or a service which will actually help these people. So again, coming back to that point I made earlier, I think it's really, really important for us to make sure that before you're reaching out to people, you need to make sure that what you're offering or the service genuinely provides value. And of course, you also need to make sure things are GDPR compliant. For me and where I'm based, that's not something I need to consider. But depending on where you are, I think it's very important for you to make sure that you're compliant with local laws, customs, all those kind of things. Now, Apify and Apollo isn't the only way that you can scrape data. Another one that I think is probably worth mentioning is Clay.com. Now, it's probably beyond the scope of this video to go into Clay in a lot of deep detail. But what I want to point out here is an effective strategy I used for one of the campaigns I was running recently. I used some software called Instant Data Scraper, where I could capture lots of different names of a specific audience and companies that I was going after, and then put that information into Clay. I've got the URLs, the website addresses, based on the company names, and then based on that information, I was then able to go and find the email address, the name info, and also some of the different marketing teams who I had an offer for. And pretty quickly, I was able to pull out and create lists of all of that information. If you'd like me to show you Clay in action, leave a comment below, and maybe if a lot of people are interested, I'll make a video on Clay. But that's another level up. Apify only costs $39, and for that you can pull a lot of information. I think Clay is when you're getting a lot more serious and you really want to expand even further than that and go for bigger and bigger volume. You get some free Clay credits when you first sign up, enough to probably get around 1,000 email addresses for you to test and validate. Maybe slightly more. I think I got about 1,200. But very quickly you then need to actually go into one of the purchase plans. Or pay plan, sorry, and the plans start at around $150 per month for 5,000 searches or about 5,000 contacts, and it starts to go up from there. So again, it's probably better, but there's higher costs involved. So I think depending on the stage you're at, if you're testing out different offers and looking at building different, validating different ideas that you've got, I'd probably go with the Apify and Apollo combination, which is why I've included it in this video. But like I say, if you want me to cover Clay in more detail, let me know and I can look at doing it. Which then, of course, brings us on to the email tools themselves and the sequences that we're going to send. So we've got our offer and we've got our list of contacts that we're going to reach out to. Now what we need to do is start sending out our offers and content to these people to start trying to find people that actually want to work and purchase and buy from us. So how do we do that? So I mentioned we got three options. There's key three players in town at the moment: Apollo, Instantly, and Lemlist. I personally prefer the UI of Apollo, which is obviously what we saw earlier. But I've been told that Instantly has better deliverability. And so for the experiments I've been running and things that I've been doing to date, I've been actually working with Instantly. Like I say, I've used Apollo as well in the past, but I found Instantly to be a little bit more cost effective, and apparently it's got better deliverability. So I've gone with Instantly, but obviously this isn't a comparison video. I'm just going with what a friend who definitely knows what he's talking about told me. So we go into Instantly, what you need to do is sign up and create an account. With our account created, we need to connect lots of different email addresses that we're going to send from. So the way email works is you can't just use one email like a Gmail or something like that and start sending, I don't know, 10,000 emails a day. It just doesn't work. You need to be really, really careful and protect the reputation of your main URL. So what most people do is they purchase similar URLs to what their main URL is, and then actually send emails from that, so that if the deliverability gets damaged, it doesn't impact the integrity of your main account. So I've purchased about 3 or 4 different URLs, and each one I've got 2 or 3 different email addresses. Now, it takes a couple of weeks before you're actually able to start sending outbound emails. And that's because what Instantly will do is it takes your URLs and the email addresses that you've connected, and it slowly starts warming them up by sending out test emails into a pool of other email addresses that it's got, so that basically what you're doing is you're showing the internet and proving its validity, so that when you actually start sending emails to your prospects, doesn't seem unusual because the email address is already up and running and sending a lot of emails and a lot of traffic. And also, it will make sure that it's delivered into the inbox of those specific people who you're trying to make it into. If you don't go through this warm-up process, it will just instantly get flagged as junk, because all of a sudden you go from sending nothing to all of a sudden sending 40, 50, 100 emails a day or whatever it is, and the majority of them not getting a response. So in warming them up, you're actually getting responses back into your email address, and that process goes on for a couple of weeks. So for your first couple of weeks, you can't actually run any of your campaigns. So it's really, really important before you go down the path of creating your campaigns and getting all of the data that you set up and you warm up your email addresses, because that way, by the end, once you've done all the other work, hopefully your email addresses will be warmed up and ready to go. I think it's probably important to point out as well, with Instantly, you are able to purchase email addresses which are already warmed up, slightly more expensive, and they won't necessarily be linked to your business. But we actually find, and from other studies and things that have been done, that doesn't matter so much. The subject line and the contents of your email is much more important than your domain URL, and you can link it all back to one which is actually linked to your business. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But I think it's obviously important to make sure that your email addresses are warmed up. So for this example, we're going to go ahead and purchase some warmed up email addresses. We got them good to go. So now what we need to do is create our sequences. Now, when it comes to writing our emails and our email sequences, I don't think that's really a one-size-fits-all approach. And the reason for this is obviously a bit like how so imagine we're making clothes, right? Everybody's got a slightly different flavor or sense of style. And so you can't really just say that one piece of clothing will match everybody. But if you're targeting a specific type of people, there's a much higher chance that your clothing or what you've got to offer will resonate with them. And that's kind of the same when it comes to our offers and our services. So what is important is to really think about who it is that we're reaching out to, the problems they're facing, and the transformation they're looking for, and then putting that into our email address, and into our email sequence, and then positioning our offer or our service as that bridge that helps them, relieve them of the pain and the problems they're experiencing, and brings them towards a prize what they're looking for. I think it's Alex Hormozy that talks around how people buy the destination, not the plane ticket. I think that's really, really important as we write our emails. We want to think around the end impact somebody gets from working with us or using our solution. Of course, giving examples wherever possible of similar people or ICPs that we've worked with before, really, really powerful. Even better if you've got some type of video testimonial or something you can include, because it instantly gives you more credibility. You got to remember, we're coming in cold to somebody that's never heard of us, and we're turning up unannounced in their inbox. So the credibility and where we're at is we're at a very, very low when it comes to trust and just everything else. So anything we can do, like giving examples and that really speak to them, their problems that they're facing, and case studies, that should help to increase the conversion. But at the same time, we really want to keep everything very light and short in our email sequences. So what I do when I'm creating my email sequences is I typically send 3 to 4 emails. I make sure that the copy is relatively short and easy to read. They say ultimately you want to try and write it as if it's being read by a 12-year-old. Reason for that is not because the people you're writing to are stupid. And some people I speak with think, well, it's almost insulting to try and keep something, dumb something down or keep it simple, because the people you're writing to are smart, and they absolutely are. But it just makes it easier to process, especially when you're turning up unannounced. People want to be able to just shortcut and make quick decisions. And so I think in terms of mass outreach and law of averages, just making things just require less brain power, less compute power, you just get better results. So I always try and focus on the impacts and the outcomes of the solution that I'm offering, not the widgets themselves. Alex Hormozzi, I think it was, first said, that you ultimately people buy destinations, they don't buy plane tickets. So as you're positioning your offer, you don't necessarily want to talk around the metrics and the numbers, its functionality. You just want to be able to clearly articulate the impact it will have on their business. That's at least what I'm doing with the emails I'm sending. I also try and give examples whenever I can. You're obviously turning up unannounced in someone's inbox that doesn't know you. So using case studies, talking around transformations that you already delivered, just helps give that little bit more credibility. So yeah, I try and do that as well. And of course, giving something to people for free and building value instantly starts to make you more credible and I think in people's eyes. So my plan, and I'll obviously, if you want an update, let me know and I'll give you an update on how it goes. But my plan with some of my current outreach messaging that I'm running is I'm sending a load of outreach to a specific ICP, ideal customer persona. But instead of just saying, hey, book a call with me, I can help solve such and such a problem, I've used a program called Score App to do that. And what I've done is I've incorporated my signature methodology all around how you can utilize AI and the latest go-to-market tools and strategies to generate more sales and boost business. And what I'm doing is asking the people who I'm reaching out to answer a quick questionnaire, and then off the back of that, they'll be able to see how they fit in and compare against the wider market. And this is great for 2 reasons. One, it provides a lot of value to the customers who I'm reaching out to. So ultimately, in answering a few questions, they get some insights and learn more about them and their business and how they could be more effective, and it provides them with some insights there and then. But also, I get more insight about them and their company and where they're at, in hopefully what's quite a non-salesy way. So at the end, I'm then well positioned to, well, one, understand whether my offers or my solutions are able to help them. But 2, if they are and they come onto a sales call, I've already got a lot of information about what they're trying to achieve, where they're at, so I really can understand how I'm best placed to help them. Now, once you've created and you've actually launched your 3 or 4 part email sequence, it doesn't stop there. You obviously want to keep an eye on it and see results and look at numbers. We obviously spoke earlier around how we're typically looking for about a 5% uptake in terms of everyone that we send, getting them onto landing pages and everything else that comes along with it. But then we want to be looking at the data that we can and acting on that data to tweak our campaigns over time to make them even more effective and increase our conversion metrics. So you made it to the end of the cold email video that I just created. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want to get some more value, I highly recommend you watch my video here on how to get higher quality leads and traffic to your business and to your offer. I think you find it really, really valuable. Thanks, and I'll see you there. Peace.